This is the 10-Minute Contrarian Podcast. This is VP. We are a solutions-based podcast, diving into the world of contrarian investing and alternative finance. You can find us hosted on the No Nonsense Forex YouTube channel, NoNonsenseForex.com, and podcast players everywhere. Episode 267 is brought to us by Apex Omni. So if you remember 2 episodes ago when I talked about Apex Omni giving away, I think you have to actually win them, 5 free funded prop trader accounts. We've already had a good amount of signups for this, but they are extending it further so you can still get in. Go down to the show notes, click on my Apex Omni blog. There's more details there, along with my main contact, who will also be your main contact. And he says he will answer any questions you may have. So not only will you get the privacy you deserve in your trading, you might also get funded for free. This is a bananas promotion they have going on right now. Traders, take advantage, because with Apex Omni, trading is your business. It is the 10-Minute Contrarian Podcast, Sunday edition once again. I'd like to get back to Saturdays for what it's worth, but here we are. And this will be part 2 of our 2-part privacy series. If you did not catch part 1, you should. It was 2 weeks ago. But there are 2 very different episodes. Part 1 was just talking about the need for privacy in the world and how to best approach it, almost more so how not to approach it. Because unfortunately, if you want real privacy, there is a bit of a lifestyle swap, I suppose you could say, an exchange of sorts. And it's really an exchange a lot of people just flat out don't want to make. Yet privacy is and will probably become a bigger and bigger issue as time goes forward. There was just an incident yesterday, I think it was, to where a Chinese-born crypto investor in Paraguay got thrown off of a 30-story building. And these things just keep happening to known crypto people. And as somebody with a medium-sized financial podcast, I think about these things a lot. And I feel like I already do a lot of work here. When it comes to crypto, I'm so spread out and so diversified. If you were ever to steal from me, it wouldn't be that much to begin with. I have taken all of the crypto apps off of my phone, with the exception of Crypto.com because I use the card. Because I just really don't use the apps or look at them that often. You know, I, like many of you, are buy and hold. And when it comes to Bitcoin, I have some on hot wallets. I have some on a cold wallet, which is also no longer a guarantee, as we learned recently. And I also have some with Fidelity, which I caught a bit of heat for when I did it, but is looking like a wiser and wiser move as time goes on now, doesn't it? And this whole moving away from sovereign privacy and just kind of like realizing if you can't beat them, join them, when it comes to governments and financial institutions is a big part of today's episode. This will be more of the investment-focused portion of the 2-part series we are currently doing. And so we will get into that now, but I really do recommend you guys give part 1 a listen if you haven't yet, and also the episode I did on basic OPSEC. You know, it's unfortunate, but these things just kind of keep resurfacing time after time. And just a little bit of preparation can go a long, long, long way. There are trade-offs with digital money. And the question is, how much of a trade-off are you willing to make? Which is a good segue, I think, into the first portion of this. And I'm going to talk about 2 coins that I have talked about in the past and why I do not think they are good investments. I like what they are and what they do. Please do not get that part twisted. But I am not an investor in Monero or Zcash, ticker symbols XMR and ZEC, respectively. And I have gone on the record several times on X talking about why. I'm like, look, contrarians, I understand what these things are and their utility. But you also have to understand that governments around the world are not going to be cool with this and are going to be constantly attacking them every chance they get. And I just don't want to have to deal with that as an investor. You know, this is just too big of a roadblock to overcome. And ever since I've been saying that, Monero and Zcash have been under constant attack by governments. You had the U.S. early on, but now it's the entire European Union, Australia, Japan, India. They have been very clear in saying, look, there is no future in finance in our country for coins like this. And what is the excuse they always use? Money laundering. And they keep saying it to us like we care about money laundering. Your average person, as far as the top 100 things they are concerned about on any given day, other people's money laundering certainly does not make the list. Like nobody cares. But if you recall what we talked about in the first privacy episode, it's criminals that ruin everything for everybody. And they love financial privacy vehicles. A lot of them love or loved Bitcoin back when they thought it was private. It is certainly not. But they have turned to Monero, Zcash. If you remember Tornado Cash, which I said this thing has zero chance of existing in its current form. And people are like, no, it's for privacy. And I'm like, it is a money laundering app, more or less. It might be the thing you said it was, but it's also the thing I said it was. And there's no chance this thing exists in the modern world. And so it pretty much got taken out and nerfed into nothing. And as an investor, I'm just not optimistic on the future of things like Monero and Zcash as well, because pretty soon they're going to be the only things left once cash finally gets phased out, for bad guys to use. 10 years from now, if somebody kidnaps one of your family members, they are probably going to demand a ransom in Monero or Zcash, provided they are still in existence. It is just the best option for these people. And yeah, maybe we don't care about money laundering on a day-to-day basis, but we do care about our safety. And, making things harder on criminals is not necessarily a bad thing. And so my lack of investment here isn't really a morality thing. It's just like there's just going to be too many headwinds here, and headwinds which will never go away. Like that's a really bad cocktail of things to have working against you literally all the time. So if you like those coins and you really do think they're good investments, then you do you. As I said, I am not against the spirit of what they were put on this earth for. But I will be looking to put my capital elsewhere. Now let's talk about that. We know at this point, it is a foregone conclusion that almost everything is going to go on the blockchain, at least in the financial world. They already know it is a superior way of doing things. These large institutions do not want to have their competition have everything on the blockchain where it is cheaper and faster, and they do not have that technology. So competition being a good thing, everybody is getting on board. Now, here's the thing. You simply cannot do what they want to do on the blockchain without a very, very strong degree of privacy. Privacy in Web 2 is easy. And as is going to be the case, they get privacy and we don't, mostly. We'll talk about that in a moment. But, you can sit there and lament about it and complain, or you can see where the puck is going and skate to it because this is a really, really large puck. And because we have gotten rid of so many casuals in this market, you have less and less people paying attention to this gigantic, too big to ignore puck. Like it's non-negotiable. You cannot have A without B. Financial institutions cannot have anybody knowing, exactly what they're doing and where their money is going. I get that. So if you understand how inevitable blockchain is, as most of us do here at the podcast, you also need to understand that the privacy aspect is also inevitable. You cannot have A without B. And there are many different types of applications here too. So, just think about the actual need. Let's go back to that for just a moment. If your stock portfolio ends up on the blockchain and you make a trade, do you want everybody to know what that trade is? Like, you better be sure that, large investors and large companies don't want anybody to know that. So you have to have that level of privacy there. And that's one of the inherent problems with crypto is much of it is an open ledger. And a large investor or a large company out there can maybe have their Ethereum address compromised, and all you would ever have to do is just go on Etherscan and see every single thing they're doing. That is not ever going to be okay. The crazy Bitcoin maxis actually thought that governments were going to replace their currency with Bitcoin and actually use it for international commerce. I'm like, are you out of your crazy minds? Who is going to be okay with this? Like, what government anywhere is ever going to say, yeah, let's go ahead and let our people and the entire world see what we're doing with each other? Like, what world are you people living in? So you have that. And then let's take it on a more personal level. Let's look at the Web3 gaming side of the equation, which, by the way, is still a thing. It's going to be a thing. But if there's anything we've learned in the blockchain world, it's just things take longer than we want them to. But once that day comes and you are on a Web3 game with your actual account and money on the line, how cool are you going to be with the possibility that your Web3 game can be compromised by a bunch of bots? This is already a major bummer when money is not on the line, but when money is, like, you can't have that either, and these companies know this. Their entire game will cease to exist if they can't get this under control. Now, I think I talked about in the first privacy episode how a very simple solution to a lot of this crime is to simply enforce the rules that you already have, which nobody ever does, which does get my conspiracy mind working at times. But hey, we are a solutions-based podcast, not a doomer crybaby problem-based podcast. I want to make money so I have less problems in my life. So where should we be looking in the privacy space to make as much money as possible? Well, unfortunately, as usual, there are not just maybe one or two choices that would make investing easy. And if it was easy, everybody would do it. But if we take what we know, that RWAs, especially just on the financial side, are going to eat the world. We have done an episode, a dedicated episode on this in the past, and that episode is aging really, really well. But it was an easy one to make because these things are inevitable, and we already see them across the world. But again, who are going to be the financial layers that protect them? I would say it would be advantageous to look at networks which are already existing and in use. So you do have Midnight by Cardano, which, I mean, worst timing ever for Cardano to have the internal problems they're having right now. But your casual investors have all but given up on them, and that's great because you have to look at what's actually there, and casuals typically don't do that. But if you did look what's actually there, and we have done an episode called Checking In on Cardano back in December of 2025, I would, if you're interested, I would highly recommend listening to that episode because you guys know I do the deep dives that your typical investor is not willing to do. And when you do that on some of these projects, not all, but some, you learn just what exactly is there. And with Cardano, there is a lot there. And there are things which make projects like Midnight very unique compared to their competition. I'm not going to spend time talking about it now because I already did a dedicated episode there. Please go watch it. And also, a dedicated episode I just did not long ago. There are aspects of Polygon which can be very beneficial and very seamless and user-friendly as far as enticing these larger institutions go. Man, there is so much there with Polygon, and the deep discounts you can get on both of these projects is just a contrarian's dream. I love the fact that even some of you guys have turned on me when it comes to talking about things like Cardano and Polygon. And so I think those two are definitely in the solid running for, there's not going to be one chain to rule them all here, and that's a good thing for us because that means we don't have to worry about picking one winner. There are other companies in the running here. There are private companies, but as investors, we don't care about those because we cannot invest in them. But as far as other chains go, you want to look for something which we've also talked about here on the show, ZK rollups, ZK snarks. ZK stands for zero knowledge. So think back to the gaming world. It's a great solution there because what ZK does is it makes you prove you are a human, you have an identity, and they know what that is, but nobody else knows what it is. So you can remain private. Just like now, if you do any type of online gaming, you can go by an alias. And this is the equivalent of what you will see in the Web3 gaming world. And a lot of legacy chains already have ZK aspects available. And that's big. You want something that already has something available because these things can improve. They can kind of make all of their mistakes now as opposed to making them later. So look towards Ethereum, look towards Solana, look towards Sui. These institutions are not even going to pay attention to these blockchains unless there are privacy aspects already baked in. Because as we said before, this is non-negotiable. These large institutions for the past 80 years have been great stewards of their clients' money and their privacy, aren't all of a sudden going to risk it all by being on a chain without privacy aspects that can easily get hacked and have all of their clients' information known to the public. This is not okay, and there is absolutely no reason to move over to Web 3 from Web 2 until they know they have this layer of privacy, a working, proven layer of privacy to safeguard them from things like this. Now, some of you may know the company I'm about to reference here, but there is one company who is solely focused on the privacy aspect of things, which I think is a great idea. And they have infiltrated the financial world in a very kind of ninja way. And I am talking about the Canton Network. Ticker symbol CC, currently number 21 on CoinMarketCap, and probably for good reason. I've said in the past, too, how when these tokens just kind of fly into the top 50 or even the top 20 kind of out of nowhere, I'm always very suspicious, and I don't really pay much attention to them, and 9 times out of 10, I am correct. But there's that 1 time out of 10, man, I'll tell you what, where I really wish I would have taken it a bit more serious. And we have had 2 tokens like that, probably in the last year and a half or so. Canton being one of them, Hyperliquid being the other. Which they were not just hype projects like they can often be. Canton was started by 2 TradFi guys, so they already had those connections. That they both worked for Citadel, which is pretty much the Illuminati of the finance world. And as much as especially crypto investors with their freedom-wielding cypherpunk ways don't like it when you have this this good old boys club nepotism type movement coming in. It's we are investors. You have to put your feelings aside with this. And if this is what's going to be, then this is what's going to be. And Canton is definitely on my radar at this point. It almost makes no sense for it not to be the next new token I invest in, because I want good equity into something so inevitable. Remember, that's what we do here, contrarians. We find things which are inevitable, find the winners, or who we think are going to be the winners, and put our money down on them, and then just wait. Because especially in this world, as you know, we have no idea how long it's going to take for these things to come around. But Canton has already wormed their way into some very large financial institutions, including what I think is really the end game, and that is the DTCC. You might have heard me say a long time ago on the podcast that there are these things called clearinghouses in the United States that they make so much money. Like the word quadrillion gets thrown around when you're talking about these clearinghouses. And until you can get rid of those, we will never have really the financial system that we deserve in this country or in the world, really. But it's one of those if you can't beat them, join them type things. And the DTCC wants to go online too, or on the blockchain, I should say. And who is the major front runner as to who is going to handle the privacy for these quadrillions of dollars that pass through these clearinghouses? Well, right now, that's Canton. And really, ever since its existence, we've had this sour divergence going on in Canton to where it hasn't pumped, but it hasn't really dropped either. It kind of does nothing as far as the price action goes. And because of this bear market we've had in crypto, this benefits us because it probably should have pumped a lot, given what we know about it now. And it didn't. So just because price didn't crater does not mean it's not cheap by comparison. So I urge you to please give this a look and do more research on it. At the very least, follow it and say to yourself, okay, once this happens or once price hits a certain level, I'm not going to be sitting there looking at this thing much longer. Not financial advice, don't do anything I say, but you are going to want some type of equity in the privacy aspect of the blockchain because you simply cannot have a future on the blockchain without the privacy pieces. And much of the crypto world has not figured this out yet. But during this bear market, like every bear market out there, the big money is building and the big money is accumulating because they know smaller, dumber money will come later when a lot of the value is not there anymore. as they always do every time. And we also know as this market matures, you're going to have a lot less, how do I even say it, like hype beast type finance going on and a lot more grown-up finance going on as everything moves into the TradFi world. Again, I'm bound to get, some people complaining about this in the comments section on YouTube. This podcast does go to YouTube, by the way. But my response is the same. It's like, hey, man, what's your solution? Sitting here complaining about things is not a solution. If you think it is, it's a really, really bad one. You must take action. You must secure your own financial future here. And you don't do that by investing in things once everybody else under the sun is aware of them. You must be willing to be a bit crazy now so you can be seen as early later.